Welcome back, my little subscribers. In this video, we're talking about yet another watch, this time a purple dial. Stick around. So if you watched my recent videos, you'll notice that recently I was in touch with Pascal, which is a watch company that's been advertising a lot on Instagram, and I had reached out and they had sent me over the Halo Oval watch, which is a very classic ellipse style watch. Like many of you, I had wondered what this watch is actually like after seeing so many Instagram ads, and also seeing that there weren't that many, or there is a lack of videos showing real world reviews of whether you should consider this watch or not. So I had reached out and they were kind enough to send it to me with no compensation. I'm free to say what my opinion is. So I've been honest, which is what I want to do today as well. With seeing how well received that first video was, Pascal actually reached out once more, and they've actually added so many models since the last time I made the video. And by models, I mean variations of their existing styles, but with so many different dial colors that I thought it was very interesting that they just really expanded on that. So they reached out again and they were interested in sharing 2 more of their watches with me so that I can share my experience with you. So I agreed to do it, and like I said, I'm free to say what I want to say and will be honest in my review. So for this first video, in this video I have a model called the Timeless Classic, and right up front they had offered this model to me, and I actually picked the colorway and I picked the unique one so that you could see how bold or how diverse the dial options are. So first off, this is clearly an homage to the Rolex Datejust. So if that's the style that you're after, this will be for you to judge whether it's something you want to try out or not. So before I get into it, sharing my personal opinion of pros and cons, who would this be for, let's go through the specs really quick. And at the same time on the screen, I'll show you the variety of dial options that you can actually pick through this model. So first off, let's go through the specs. The neat thing about this model is that it's not limited to one size. I know a lot of times we're looking at watches or considering gifts for people, or if we're considering gifts for people, and the size of the watch may matter a lot to you. So we've got this watch model in 3 sizes, no matter which colorway you pick, no matter which dial finishing you pick, which is of your preference. So we've got a 31 millimeter, a 36 millimeter, and a 41. So we're basically capturing all ranges of wrist sizes here, from small wrist, particularly women, 36, which is more unisex, or 41 for those who want a larger wrist presence, or you just have a larger wrist. So with the different sizes come different prices. So this is good because you're getting an incremental the bigger the watch is. One of the main reasons is because Pascal prides itself on the diamonds and the gem aspect of a lot of their products. So just like all their watches, they try to put some sort of diamond aspect into it. The larger the watch, the more diamond you'll probably get on the dial. So that is part of the price consideration, in addition with just more materials to make a larger watch. I'll be focusing on the 36 millimeter today, but just going through the specs of the diamonds, you're getting a 0.15 carat, and these are lab-grown diamonds, so they're ethically made, or as they say, ethically sourced. We've got a Swiss quartz. It doesn't particularly say which kind of movement, but in other models I saw, it was a ronda movement, so I would assume it's also a quartz ronda. This particular 36 millimeter is a 45.5 millimeter lug to lug, so that again, unisex size, fits nicely within the wrist circumference, giving you a very nice classic dressy look. But at the same time, we'll talk about more the other pieces of the dimensions that make this watch stand out a little bit more on the wrist. The strap width is 19 millimeters on this 36. We've got a sapphire crystal glass. We've got a thickness of 11.5 millimeter case. We've got all stainless steel construction. We've got a fluted bezel, a Jubilee bracelet. The clasp is steel as well. at 100 meters water resistance. So you'll have that, you'll have the screw-in crown, which will add to that water resistance. And this particular model, with the amount of links it has, is estimated to fit a wrist of 6.5 to 9.5 inches. So it can look, as a 36, it can look, you know, fairly medium to large on a smaller wrist, or just right on a medium-sized wrist, or within a more petite style, elegant, classy, vintage vibe on a larger wrist. So now that we've got the specs out of the way, first off, my impression of the specs is we've got fairly respectable details here, like well-made construction in the steel, the sapphire crystal, a Swiss movement with the diamonds. Like we do have good specs here on paper. How does that play out in person in handling the watch? So the first thing I'll say is, how does it wear? And like I said, 36 is more of the unisex size. It does wear like a modern Datejust, in my opinion, even though this is called the Timeless Classic, which would kind of make me think more vintage. This is more in line with the modern Datejust design. So you're gonna get a slightly thicker lug. It's all polished case. It kind of wears, because of the thickness of the lugs in the more modern Datejust style, this is gonna fit more like a 38 to 39. So it's not as small as it seems or comes off at 36 millimeter, for those of you who are concerned about how it wears. And you'll see that on my wrist on the examples. Now the bracelet, it's light, it's steel, and I'd say it's okay. It's pretty average. It's not gonna knock you off your chair or anything. It's just a straightforward Jubilee bracelet. They've got their own custom name. They've got their name on the clasp. A good point here, and this is a positive and negative. Positive is they are screw links. So you don't have pins, which I know a lot of people don't like. The screws are easier to change and size. But the negative I found is, as I was sizing this watch, the links were very tight. So tight that I actually had to get a lighter and heat up the links to loosen up that screw. So unfortunately, I think that just goes down to where has Pascal dedicated to invest in putting this watch together. And unfortunately, a lot of times the bracelet on a lot of companies is not where the bulk of the money goes. So I'm sure they could improve it in the future, but the very tight screws could discourage someone who just like opens up the watch, wants to size it, and then struggles with it. And that was me until I decided to just heat up the links and do that little trick to loosen the screws. But not everyone will want to do that, or will be a little thrown off having to do that. So just keep that in mind. Okay, the key element. What makes this watch is several components, but the dial is the primary reason. That's the most attractive piece of many watches, and for my personal choice, why I would pick a certain watch over another. This one that I've picked here is a purple plate dial. Now, purple, being very bold, very elegant, is actually a very rare color to find on a watch. So that's what attracted me to this one, and that's why I wanted to show you guys this dial. Now, I will say, the dial is fairly well made. It has their logo, it has the diamonds adding to it. The dial has, because it's plaid checkered, in other words, it does have a finishing, like every other square is the same finishing. So you've got a mix of brushing in opposite directions. So as you turn your wrist, you'll see a change color, you'll see the change in the texture, which is quite interesting if you're looking into something, having something bold, something a little bit different, something to stand out in your collection, or as a gift. If someone really likes purple, usually it's hard to find a dial it's usually hard to find a brand making a purple dial at this pretty reasonable price. So who is this for? Let's talk about that for a little bit. So like I said, because there are 3 sizes, it can be for anyone. And that's really cool to say, because not a lot of brands make the same thing in multiple sizes. So if someone, for example, really likes this purple dial, you wouldn't be disappointed to be like, oh, they only make it in 36 and I really want a 41, my bad. Or I really need this 31, to match with my couple. You know, she'll have the 31, I'll have the 36, or whatever those sizes are. It's a really easy way to have a couple's watch, or to give a gift and have the option to, you know, get at the right size of that person who would prefer that particular size on their wrist. Now, second, it's a very elegant color, like I said, but it is bold, and the finishing might not be for everyone. If you're a person who like wants to be very fashionable, have a watch that's ready to go because it's not automatic, you won't have to worry about setting the time, it's easy to just put away and grab, but because it's very bold, I think that won't be for a lot of people as well. So we kind of got these opposites here. If you want this bold color with a lot of flashiness or bling, so to speak, this could be for you. But if that throws you off, then this colorway might not be for you, but you could probably see there are other options of the same style in more classic or traditional colorways. After wearing it personally, I'll tell you my thoughts. I love the Datejust model. But for me, I love the purple. However, I did think that the plaid finishing on this dial was a bit too much. I think it was competing with the shininess of the diamond, the shininess of the fluted bezel that's polished, the entire case being polished, and the Jubilee bracelet that has its own standout feature. When you take into consideration all these different elements, it could feel like a lot, like too much bling, too much bold. So I would personally prefer if they had made a matte purple dial, some flatness to balance with all the shine going on. But like I said, you may be of the opposite opinion and want something flashy that stands out, that will be like a conversation piece for your outfit. With the plaid dial, I feel like maybe I would have preferred a smooth domed bezel, but that's not the case here. In addition, you know, we've got the 11 diamonds. I think it just overall comes together being very flashy and bold. And if you look at the other colorway options, you'll notice that you'll kind of get the same idea from the other ones, because we do have a green one, we have like a two-tone in root beer colors like brown. It will really vary on your taste how flashy you want to be depending on the colorway. But even with this one not being a two-tone, I felt like it was a lot of different elements, a lot of finishes competing for each other, competing for attention in a way. Like I said, we've got 3 different sizes. The 31 starting at $195, the 36 at $215, and the 41 at $240. Now, there is a value proposition here with adding the diamonds and the unique colors, so I could see why it's been priced in that position. I personally would have preferred it to have at minimum an NH35 to kind of add a little bit more class to the watch, a little bit of that smooth sweep, or if it does have to be quartz just to, you know, still have a Swiss reliable movement and keep the price down, at least I would have preferred removing the seconds hand. Overall, I'd say it's an attractive watch with several colorways. It has its pros and cons, but you can take a look at the options and, you know, depending on the fashion style or what you're trying to go for, more serious and conservative, there might be something there for you to consider. But if you're not into having so much flashiness or bling, or you're not into quartz movements, this may not be the one for you. But for those looking for like an automatic or more classic Datejust interpretation homage watch, you may want to look somewhere else, or maybe look vintage from other brands that have made this design of their own, like in the 80s and 90s. There's a couple of brands that made their own Datejust styles that may fit more of that vintage look for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Just wanted to share my impressions. Where does this watch land with considering all these different elements and options that you have? So if you did like it and you want to check it out, go ahead and look in the description below. They offered to provide a 20% off. And I do know that they offer discounts very often, but if there isn't one, go ahead and use the one on mine. Description below, and you'll get a 20% off to enjoy that as for yourself or as a gift for someone. And again, they have different models, and I'll be reviewing another one very shortly. Thanks for watching.